Arifureta, from Commonplace to World's Strongest, is an isekai that doesn't always get the attention or respect it deserves. Yeah, we're gonna shorten that. I'm like 90% sure that most of you watching this video haven't even heard of this anime, even though it has its flaws and it started off kinda rough. I believe it's an underrated show, especially when you look at the bigger picture and its more realistic approach to the isekai genre. If you've seen this anime, how do you like it? And if you think it compares to any other isekai, tell me down below. I want to hear your guys' opinions on how you would rank this anime compared to the rest of the genre. Now that being said, I'm sure all of you have literally watched any isekai ever, where a regular person is transported to a fantasy world and becomes a hero who fights some evil demon lord with magic and different creatures. But Arifureta does something slightly different. Instead of following the usual path where the main character becomes a hero with god-tier power and is filled with honor and morality, this anime takes a darker turn. Hajime Nagumo, the protagonist of this anime, starts off as a weak and bullied teen in his high school, but after his whole class gets transported to a new world, yes, even the teacher, they're forced to all become heroes, which in itself is kinda unusual in the isekai genre. While one day the class is exploring a dungeon, they get ambushed by a creature that is able to take on the whole class by itself, and eventually is able to get the upper hand on them. Realizing this, they plan to retreat, but they can't escape while the creature is still attacking them, makes sense. So Hajime decides to sacrifice himself to save the whole class, which in the end takes out the monster, but also taking out the bridge he was on. While the class escapes and plans to go back to look for Hajime, they eventually agree to his death, and mourn over it. But somehow, some way, Hajime actually survived, but he's very badly injured. Clinging onto the hope of being saved, he fights to stay alive in the bottom depths of the dungeon. After days and days go on, Hajime's hope and life are fading. Realizing nobody's coming for him, he decides to fight for himself, becoming almost inhumane. As the days go on, he slowly loses humanity and becomes more and more ruthless. While on the brink of death, he vows to escape the dungeon. This shift in his character makes Arifureta kinda stand out to me. It doesn't follow the typical hero story. It's more about survival and revenge, and the struggle with trauma, as well as accepting what you have to do to survive. Hajime does some pretty brutal and disturbing things to protect himself, and the people that he cares about. And this raises questions. What really is right and wrong? The anime also doesn't shy away from showing the darker side of its characters, especially Hajime, who isn't afraid to kill if it means staying alive. It makes you think about, what would you do in his situation? Would you go to the lengths he would to survive? Or would you restrain yourself, even if it meant dying? Well, it's really not so simple. And whatever decision you make, it doesn't make you a hero or villain or good or bad. And that's something that's often overlooked in anime. But I just realized while editing this video that I've been pronouncing the whole anime name wrong, and it's pronounced Arifureta, not Arifureta. Okay, let's get back to the video. Aside from Hajime, Arifureta also has a cast of interesting side characters who add depth and dimension to the story. Characters like Yue, Shia, and Tio all have their unique backgrounds and motivations, each bringing something different to the table. Their interactions with Hajime not only provide comic relief, but also are used to keep him from turning into an evil monster. Even if they're barely able to do that, it still counts. They drive the plot and character development in meaningful ways. Hajime's bond with Yue, for example, is probably the most important of his transformation. Their connection is deep and long-lasting, providing both emotional support and a sense of purpose for him. The dynamics between everyone also shows different aspects of his personality, making the dynamics between the characters both enjoyable and meaningful. They also provide emotional balance and varying perspectives. All these contribute to Hajime's journey in their own weird way, which offers viewers a chance to connect with the characters on a deeper level. But personally, the most impressive thing about this anime is the trauma he experiences and his difficult recovery are depicted with a surprising level of realism for an anime. His transformation isn't just physical, but also mental, showing how extreme circumstances can change a person. The show explores coping mechanisms, his gradual acceptance of his new reality, and his determination to move forward. This portrayal of trauma is more relatable for viewers who have faced their own challenges. Hajime's journey from a weak, bullied student to a formidable and respected figure who becomes stronger than everyone who's ever treated him poorly is an inspiration to those who have faced with similar struggles. His refusal to give up, even in the face of overwhelming odds, is a powerful message of resilience and self-determination. The theme of empowerment resonates with viewers, providing a sense of hope and encouragement to overcome their challenges, due to it being the correct way to show growth and change, unlike some anime. Stick to the end to see what I'm talking about. And one of the coolest things about Arifureta is how much Hajime actually changes throughout the series. Like at first he's just an ordinary high school student who's picked on and underestimated by everybody around him. But after being left for dead and put in a life or death situation, he transformed into a powerful and determined fighter who really lacks any remorse or mercy from your usual protagonist, which is kind of refreshing in a sense. Even in the world they're based in, it's pretty much a world full of dangerous labyrinths, powerful monsters, and ancient technology, adding its own spin on your own typical isekai world. Anyway, even in the show itself, the detailed world and its lore are pretty well done. It kind of starts out slow, and the pacing is kind of off and on throughout the first few episodes, but the different environments that Hajime explores keep the story fresh and kind of interesting, so it makes up for it. The challenges he faces in each new location also push the story forward and help develop his character even more, and then dives into even heavier themes like betrayal, revenge, and the cost of power. Basically, the story focuses more about dealing with the emotional and psychological toll of what he's been through, and the way they go about it is probably more targeted to a more mature audience, so be warned about that. But it's actually a more thought-provoking show than it might seem at first glance, and that's something that should low-key be appreciated more. But there is a really big flaw that can maybe turn you away. Yeah, Arifureta has had some issues with its animation, especially in the first season. The CGI wasn't good, and that turned a lot of people off. But the show improved as it went on, and the action scenes became more exciting and better animated. The voice acting also made up for this visuals kinda struggling and helped set the tone for the show. While it's easy to focus on the negatives of the show when you start, it's important to keep in mind that Arifureta got better over time and has some pretty good production elements. All in all, Arifureta might not be perfect, but it's definitely underrated. It offers a unique take on the isekai genre itself, with a darker story, complex characters, and a world that's worth exploring. If that doesn't entice you, here's a compilation of Hajime just being an absolute badass. Dude! Yeah, if you couldn't tell, Hajime walks around strapped to the brim! Look at this man! Anyway, while it does have flaws, the series also has a lot of strengths. Sure, often overlooked, so it's kind of thrown under the rug a little bit, but that's okay. Whether you're a fan of isekai, or even just looking for something different, Arifureta is an anime that could possibly pique your interest, especially if you like dudes with just cool guns, and are very anti-hero-esque. But if you're into more popular anime, go watch this video we did on One Piece, where my opinion on Luffy, low-key might take you off, but I don't mean anything from it, so please don't hurt me. Anyway, we're still locked in. Thank you for watching. I love you guys. And, peace.